Hey there, Megan Jansen here, Employee Wellness Solutions Network. I'm excited to take us through a bit of an overview today on the three P's of success for a wellness program: people, planning, and showing progress. And we're going to spend a bit of time today talking about those three things. First of all, people. One of the biggest challenges I find in talking to workplaces and folks who look after employees in these workplaces is sometimes the gathering the right people is difficult. Sometimes we have senior leadership support, sometimes we don't. Sometimes we have involvement from the leadership level, and sometimes we don't. And so it is a bit more of a challenge for the implementation and success of a wellness program if we don't have that. One of the things that we can do, though, is recognize where we need to fill some of those spaces. And oftentimes, the creation of a wellness team is really effective. It's ideally a cross section of the entire organization. I like to suggest about 10% of the organization be part of the wellness team. Now, if your organization is a little bit larger, too many cooks in the kitchen can get a bit challenging as well. So just looking at what that cross section is and making those decisions. It's a really valuable tool and success for wellness programs to have people representation. A human-centered organized plan is really a valuable asset to the successful wellness program. And so having those individuals who are enthusiastic and are real champions and ambassadors for your goals is a really great thing. Now, sometimes it's not easy to recruit wellness team members. And people ask, well, when do we do that? When is the best time? The best time is really during your business cycle, when things and opportunities for introducing new things is real. So, sometimes looking at the fall months is an ideal time, and it just so happens October is Healthy Workplace Month. So it's an awesome time to start this discussion as an organization. The new year is another great time in the springtime. So depending again on your organization, when is the best time to start this process? It's really up to you. Those are the three ideal times during a calendar year for wellness in the workplace to be a focal point of that culture. So that's the one thing. The second thing is looking at in addition to the people and having those people involved and enthusiastic with the program, looking at where we go from an organizational perspective. How do we plan this out? What are the most important areas to focus in on? I'm going to share my screen with a couple of ideas for you. And one being is our suggested document around, just going to grab it here, document around opportunities for organized planning. And that is a helpful tool when it comes to kind of seeing things bigger picture. And so when we start looking at, from the organizational perspective, how we might be able to make some changes and implement some ideas within our organized plan, it allows this discussion to be had around what's the most important for our organization. And this is the most important piece when it comes to planning. What are the organizational strategic objectives? How does align with your wellness program? And we ideally want these to match. And that's really all about connecting these dots and making it a cohesive game plan for the organization. When we have the right people in play, this becomes an inevitable second step, is starting to plan out what our year, what our 2 years, what our 3 or 4 or 5 year plan is going to look like. What are some of those objectives? How do they align with the strategic direction of the organization? That's a critical piece. Having that knowledge is power, really, when it comes to a successful rollout and implementation of a wellness program. From there, we start to get into a bit more, I like to start suggesting for people to think more macro and then getting into more micro. So macro, thinking about those large kind of objectives of the organization and their program, and then getting into a bit more specific. So looking at what are the main elements of these of your plan. What are then the sort of the categories or pillars? What are the core concepts or core components that you want to establish? And then we start to get into some short, medium, and long-term goals. And then we get into some of those micro details, by who's doing it and by when. Almost prioritizing where we want to go with this. So this gives you an overview and an idea of what it might look like. There are several options for planning. This is one of them that I wanted to share. Another one is another kind of tool that is a valuable tool for an overall program for a calendar year. Nothing's worse than feeling like we're running beside the train when it comes to planning. And what are we going to do next month and the weekend, the month after that? So when we start to understand what the plan, the strategic direction needs to be, then we can get into more micro deciding decisions on what we want to do. And oftentimes, when we start to have this discussion on planning, budget's going to come into play. And there are so many low to zero cost options out there when it really comes down to organizing your vision and organizing and be more organized than not, because that will really help the success and participation for your wellness program. So this gives a bit of an overview. This is a great, fabulous opportunity to start looking at planning your wellness program over a year at a time. We also want to share our Healthy Workplace Month calendar with you, and you'll be able to log that, link that into this blog. Another great tool that I wanted to share, I'd be remiss if I didn't, is a really valuable tool when it comes to looking at what are the essentials when it comes to wellness programming. And this is, again, part of your planning, and I'm happy to link this into the session, into the blog as well. This is really all about the essentials checklist, what really makes a great wellness program. So we always like to start with the people, then we get into the planning phase, and then we get into evaluation, implementation, and evaluation. The purposes of this talk is really to start looking at these first two areas. Now, the third P is showing progress, and that is a valuable discussion also to be had on where and how we want to continue to evaluate, listen to feedback, and start perfecting our wellness strategy as it goes. And recognizing that times change, programs change, interests change. So in the event that things do change, we need to be fluid enough to be able to address some of those changes and edits along the way. So don't be afraid to make those changes. This is where we really value a wellness team to help you with this. And I will be sharing this great white paper on Wellness Champion Networks. And the best practice guide to creating that team of great people. So people, planning, and showing progress is a really great way of thinking about wellness in our workplaces these days, especially with the ever-changing landscape. I hope you found this helpful.